What if the greatest philosopher in Western history was shaped not by wisdom alone, but by heartbreak, political betrayal, and the death of the man he admired most? Plato's story is often told through his ideas, but the real Plato, the young aristocrat with shattered dreams, the grieving student of Socrates, the traveler searching for truth in foreign lands, and the desperate reformer who nearly died trying to change a corrupt kingdom, remains hidden behind the polished image of the philosopher we study today. Before he wrote the Republic, before he founded the Academy, Plato was a man witnessing the collapse of his city, questioning the justice of his leaders, and wrestling with the chaos of a world that had betrayed everything he valued. His journey from privileged youth to revolutionary thinker is filled with dramatic turns: the trial and execution of Socrates, dangerous voyages across the Mediterranean, betrayal in Syracuse, and a lifelong mission to reshape society through wisdom. This is not just philosophy, it is the untold human story of a man whose pursuit of truth transformed civilization. Plato, one of the most influential thinkers in human history, was born around 428 BCE into an aristocratic family in Athens, a city that stood at the center of Greek culture, politics, and intellectual life. Yet behind his celebrated philosophical achievements lies an untold story of personal struggle, political disappointment, and a lifelong quest for truth that shaped the foundations of Western thought. His birth name was likely Aristocles, but he earned the nickname Plato, meaning broad, possibly for his wide physical build or the breadth of his intellect. From a young age, Plato was surrounded by political conversations, as his family had ties to both democracy and oligarchy, giving him firsthand exposure to the flaws, ambitions, and rivalries that defined Athenian politics. Although he showed early interest in becoming a statesman, Plato's worldview changed forever when he encountered Socrates, a humble stonecutter who devoted his life to questioning people's beliefs and guiding them towards self-knowledge. Socrates awakened in Plato a new understanding of philosophy, not as a theoretical exercise, but as a way of life rooted in ethical inquiry and the fearlessness to pursue truth even when society resisted. Plato followed Socrates closely, learning through dialogue and walking the streets of Athens, where Socrates challenged citizens on justice, courage, and virtue. The turning point came in 399 BCE, when Socrates was put on trial for corrupting the youth and not believing in the city's gods. Plato watched with deep pain as the democratic court condemned Socrates to death, an event that shattered his faith in politics and convinced him that society could not be just unless led by a truly wise leader. This traumatic experience became the emotional and philosophical foundation of Plato's later works, especially the Apology, the Phaedo, and most famously, the Republic, where he introduces the idea of the philosopher king. After Socrates' death, Plato left Athens in grief and began a long period of travel, seeking wisdom beyond the limitations of his city. It is believed that he visited Egypt, where he learned about mathematics, religious traditions, and ancient wisdom, journeyed to Cyrene in North Africa to study geometry under the famous mathematician Theodorus, traveled to southern Italy to engage with the Pythagoreans, whose ideas about numbers, harmony, and the structure of the universe deeply influenced his philosophy, and even spent time in Syracuse, a city in Sicily where he attempted to apply his political theories. The Syracuse mission is an often untold but dramatic part of Plato's life. He hoped to transform the young tyrant Dionysius II into a philosopher king, believing he could reshape a real political system according to wisdom and justice. However, reality clashed with idealism. The court was filled with corruption, personal rivalries, and resentment toward Plato's ideas, leading to conflicts that nearly cost him his life. Plato was even sold into slavery at one point, reportedly rescued only when a friend recognized him in the marketplace. These political failures strengthened Plato's conviction that true philosophy cannot survive in a corrupt environment, and that genuine reform must begin with education, not force. Returning to Athens after his travels, Plato founded the Academy around 387 BCE, one of the world's first institutions of higher learning and the model for modern universities. The Academy was more than a school, it was a community dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, where students studied mathematics, ethics, metaphysics, astronomy, and political theory under Plato's guidance. It attracted some of the brightest minds of the era, including Aristotle, who studied under Plato for 20 years before becoming a monumental philosopher in his own right. At the Academy, Plato wrote most of his dialogues, a unique literary form where philosophical ideas unfold through conversations rather than lectures. This method allowed him to explore complex questions about reality, knowledge, virtue, the soul, and the structure of the universe. His writings reveal a mind constantly wrestling with the deepest mysteries of existence. And even though Socrates appears as the central figure in many dialogues, scholars believe Plato used Socrates' voice to express his own evolving ideas. Plato's philosophy is built on the belief that the physical world is only a shadow of a higher, unchanging reality he called the world of forms. In this realm exist perfect, eternal models of all things, beauty, justice, goodness, of which the material world is only an imperfect reflection. To Plato, true knowledge comes not from the senses, which are unreliable, but from reason, which allows the soul to remember and recognize the forms. His famous allegory of the cave illustrates this idea, describing humans as prisoners mistaking shadows for reality until a brave individual escapes into the light, discovers the truth, and returns to guide others. This metaphor reflects Plato's view of philosophy as an intellectual and moral journey from ignorance to enlightenment. Beyond metaphysics, Plato made profound contributions to political theory, arguing that justice in society requires justice within the individual soul. He envisioned a tripartite soul, reason, spirit, and appetite, each needing to function in harmony, just as society needs a wise ruling class, a courageous defense force, and a productive citizenry. His concept of the philosopher king, a ruler guided not by power or wealth but by wisdom and virtue, remains one of the most radical and thought-provoking ideas in political philosophy. Despite his soaring intellectual achievements, Plato's personal life was marked by disappointment as many of his dreams for political reform failed. His attempts to apply philosophy in Syracuse collapsed repeatedly, and he grew increasingly aware of the gap between ideal theory and messy reality. Yet his resilience was extraordinary. Instead of giving up, Plato turned his hopes toward the future, believing that education could slowly transform humanity. Under his leadership, the Academy became a powerful center of intellectual influence, shaping generations of thinkers who carried forward the torch of philosophical inquiry. Plato continued teaching and writing until his old age, working on some of his most complex and ambitious dialogues, such as the Timaeus and the Laws. While the Republic focused on an ideal state ruled by philosophers, the Laws reflects a more practical, mature vision, acknowledging the compromises necessary in real societies. This shift reveals a man who evolved with experience, maintaining his commitment to truth while recognizing the limitations of human nature. Plato died around 348 or 347 BCE, reportedly still writing at his desk, leaving behind a legacy that remains unmatched. His ideas became the foundation of Western philosophy, shaping Christian theology, Islamic scholarship, Renaissance humanism, and modern political theory. Through his dialogues, he preserved the memory of Socrates, ensuring that the wisdom of his teacher would echo through time. More importantly, Plato's life, his disappointments, ambitions, travels, and relentless pursuit of truth shows that philosophy is not only about abstract thought, but about a lived commitment to questioning, improving oneself, and seeking justice even when the world seems unwilling to follow. His untold story is one of courage, curiosity, and intellectual rebellion, a reminder that one individual's pursuit of wisdom can shape civilizations for thousands of years.